Hi, welcome. This is Charlie and my messy fingers. I'm making a baby album featuring 49 and Market, their Little Dreamers collection. And this is another signature. We're going to have a big waterfall in the middle, and then we're going to have a couple of pages. So let's dive right into it. Let me move these out of the way so we can get to this piece. And once again, there are lots of colors, but I'm choosing to stay somewhat neutral. This is going to go on my website when I'm done for sale. So I'm trying not to lean one way or another as far as for the preference for dominating colors. And that's why I'm not using this side. I'm using the darker side. So this is going to be 8.5 inches across. And it's going to be 8 3/4 of an inch in height. I'm going to put a little birdie here. Where'd the other one go? Then I'm going to put a little birdie here. We're putting a great big waterfall right in the center. And I'm going to drop a raccoon down here. And then this adorable little giraffe. So we are going to make... We're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 waterfall pieces that are going to measure 5 by 4, and then you're going to do a 1/2 inch score along the 5 inch length. So 5 by 4, and then you're going to do a 1/2 inch score on all 9 of these. Turning it over, you're going to be cutting a single piece that's going to measure 5 by 4.5. And then you're going to mount all these to this, and then there's just this one piece that has to be centered and placed. So you're not messing around with trying to line all these up. By cutting it onto that single piece back here, you can line everything up on this. And then I went to my scraps and I had this adorable little piece. So that's what's going to go here. And then the word bundle of joy. Along the bottom of each one of these, I have trimmed 1/2 inch strips, and you can pick whatever strip pattern you want, but these are all going to line across the bottom all the way down. And then for the inside, this hinge right here, I've cut 3/8 of an inch in a pattern. You can go solid if you want, and that's what's going to go right here. And then we're going to flank, everything's going to be done as far as for the base page. So let's go ahead and let's get this mounted. So I'm going to take... that get in there straight. I think it looks good. I'm going to burnish from the underside because that's a direct contact with the tape. And it's a lot easier to do it that way than trying to do it individually. Okay, so let's put this little piece on, and I am going to glue it in. And if you don't want to use a piece like this, you've got, I know if you're following along and you're making it, you've got lots of solids. And you can just choose to cover this in solid. And that way you just put a photo right here. But I always cover this first one so that you've got something to look at when you get to the waterfall. And then all the photos beneath are nice little surprises. Okay, so we've got Bundle of Joy. All right, I'm going to add these little guys. They're so fragile. These pieces right here. And then the giraffe. I think I set that too far one way. And then the raccoon, or whichever little embellishment you choose to use. Okay, and then when you flip this up, you're going to have this spot right here that you can either further embellish or just leave it alone. Now, these, I wanted to use the striped pieces because they add a little bit of visual embellishment, if you will, instead of it just being a solid. But if you want to use a solid color, you certainly can. And I had cut all these so that I was sure that they were going back down in their trimmed order, and then I dropped them all. So I have no idea if they're going in correct or not. Oh, now that one's a completely different piece. You know what? That was the one I cut for up here because it was just going to be a different pattern. There are two of these that are real similar, but their spacings are different. I had ran out of the major one, which was where the bulk of the trim was coming from, and thinking that I was trimming the same kind, I noticed that the pattern was a little off. So just a heads up to you. And then the last one. Okay. Now on the inside, this hinge right here, I don't like the hinge. I don't like it being open, so I cut 3/8 of an inch strip, and it's just going to fit right in here. And again, it's a patterned piece. And these I did keep in order, so if someone really catches their eye, they'll see that the pattern is continuous. It's a lot easier just to glue the center of this than it is to try and glue the individual strips. I got a little bit of glue there. Uh-oh. Well, that's... I don't think I cut enough of these, and here I go doing it on this. I had one extra one, and I don't know what I've done with it there. I'll find it. I had cut an extra one, so I will find it, so this will get covered. So once I do that, this will be done. Now let's move on to our panel assemblies. I'm going to set that right there because everything beneath it. Oh, I didn't ink that. Okay, so your first panel is going to measure at 6 inches across and 8 3/4 in height. The height will always match the base page. 1/2 inch score along this line, and then we're going to attach this right up to the score mark. Normally I would turn this over, but this is some weight right there that I don't want to be flopping around. Okay. Now let's attach this one over here as well. This one is going to measure at 6 inches by 8 3/4. 1/2 inch score, and then we're going to come in here and attach it to this side. Instead of using I just lost the word for it. You know what I'm talking about. A magnet strip with to hold these down. Not doing that. I'm using the flaps. Sometimes my brain gets going so fast I forget what I'm talking about. All right, so on the inside here, you've got a piece of paper that has the alphabet on it. And that's what we're going to use. We're going to trim it to embellish each side of this. And when you trim it, you're just going to trim it to fit. There, I don't provide the measurements for pattern paper. You just trim it in to fit, and I usually leave about 1/16 of an edge all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and glue this in. Out of my way over here. And there we go. Now, on this side, we're going to create a band. The band is measuring in at 1 1/4 inches. And you're going to take tape that's 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to cover both ends of the band, and then we're going to run it down the center. Now this band measures from just inside this score line out to this edge. Depending upon how you cut and how you trim, I'm going to give you this length measurement, but please verify it to what you've trimmed. So this is coming in at 5.5 inches. And I'm going to line it up here and take it out to here. I'm just going to eyeball the center just a little bit. And if I take it from here out, then if I have any overhang, it's easier to trim it off at this end, which is what I have going on here. Take that strip of tape off, and then we're going to take that one off. All right, so then I cut a strip. It's the striped pattern, and it's just going to fit right inside here, and I do need to trim this down just a wee bit. Get rid of my pencil mark. And I'm going to glue this on. And then the statement sayings, I've got 10 tiny fingers that's going to go right in here. I think that's so cute, 10 tiny fingers. And just center it as best as you can. So now when you're done with this, what you have is a tuck from the top, and you have a tuck from the bottom, and they're snug tucks, so whatever photos you put in there, they're not going to fall out. But you can still commit a photo if that's what you want to do. Now let's go ahead and go to this side, and we're going to repeat that process. I love the weight and the feel of the 49 in market paper. It's quite lovely to work with. And then we're going to make another strip. And before I get it in there, I'm going to so this one, where's my pencil? I'm going to need to just take that much off. And then we'll add our tape. So tape the ends first. And then you'll roughly place this in the middle and run it all the way down. Okay, I have misplaced, there they are, my scissors, so I can trim some of this overhang out of there. Okay. All right, so I've got that set, so we'll take this strip off. And we'll take this strip off. And let me just double verify the knot. A little bit has to come off this as well. And then over here I have Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Okay, so that's what you have here. Now, this alone will hold, that's 4. I've totally lost it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 plus the 4. So just this right here will hold a lot of photos. So now let's close this. Boy, I did not trim that off very well, did I? There we go, much better. And then this is going to sit in here, and it looks like I need to take a little bit off the edge, not much. And I also need to ink this real quick. Okay. The reverse side has this pattern, but we're going to play with that. I am wanting to utilize some of the blanker reverse sides because this is for placement of photos, and we want to ensure that we've got plenty of room to do that. And then we're going to place this one in. I'll come back to that in a second. Getting myself turned around. Oh, I got a tag along on the end of my glue bottle. So here, I've created a little diagonal pocket, which is going to go down here. And then on this side, I took what was left over of a trim, and I'm putting that down here, and I'm going to add just a little bit of lace to give it some delicate prettiness, if you will. So let's get some tape on the back of this. It's going to measure in at 3 3/4 by 3 1/2. We want the 3 3/4 in the width here so that we can utilize as much of this little pocket as we can. Now this trim, the other half to this has the word baby right here. And this was the, I'm using it on the neck signature, but this is what was left over of that cutting. So we are going to utilize this as an embellishment. It's got some cute little graphics on it. Let's go ahead and let's get this put in. And I'm going to center this as best as possible. And I'm coming up off the edge about 1/4 of an inch so that there's a spacing there. And then we're going to set this in its frame, just like so. And then here, I added this little embellishment. It's so cute. Looks like laundry bags. I'm not sure what all the images are, but this is going to come even with this edge. Okay, I had totally meant to, I gotta bring this to me just a little bit. Totally meant to put this on before I taped it down. So I am going to need to change this, how I add this in here just a little bit. It would be much easier if I had done that. I had left a little extra here for trimming it on the ends. Sorry about that. I'm deep in thought on my glue here. And this type of ribbon, I'm making sure that this big wide piece is what comes up to the edge of the pocket so that this hangs over just a little bit. Come on. Now I need to get in there with a piece of paper to make sure that I didn't get any glue slipping through. Okay. All right, so that's done. So now I got a nice pocket and you got a spot here for a photo. Now coming back to this, I cut this, was a 4x4 square. I cut it on the diagonal. I rounded the corner because I'm putting it down here. And I'm just going to attach just a thin row of tape on these two sides, leaving this diagonal cut open. Tuck those in, and then I'm going to come right here to the corner, match it up, secure the base, and unwalk this up the edge. Come on. And then just find a trim. I found this trim. I liked this here across the bottom, and I did cut it. Why is that puckering? Just a moment. I do not understand why that's puckering. There we go. Now I just gotta wait for that to dry. So I did the same thing. I cut a 4x4 square, cut it on the diagonal. I rounded my corner, and then I trimmed this long end until this fit right in there. So you can see here's the little edge. And it sits in there like so. And then using a die that I have, I made a little envelope. This is that trim that we just used. Where'd it go? This trim right here. This is a part of that. So I put the die looks like this. It's a Graphic 45 envelope die. So the die cuts and trims like this. So when you fold it, you're covering just the outside. So when I did this, I put this piece on the die plate so that it would cut this piece out. And then I put a scrap of this on the same cut so that this would fit in here like this. And then on a separate run, I used this scrap piece. So these are all scraps so that this would then cover the back of the envelope. So let's go ahead and get this assembled. I'm going to start with this. And you don't need to cover the entire inside. That's just a waste of paper that you might need later on. Plus it just takes up unnecessary space inside the envelope. Okay, just off center that just a hair. And then I'm going to take really thin tape and you're going to cover this flap here. You're going to cover these ends right here. That way you don't have any tape, because I'll show you when you close this. If you put the tape here, when you go to close this, you're going to see tape sticking up down here, and you don't want to do that. It's very unsightly. Just make sure that's tucked back in where it's supposed to be. And then we're going to fold this. Give it a good burnish, and let's add this piece. And I did trim these in just a little bit on the edges so it would frame in nicely. And then we're going to put the back. And I wanted to go with the more grayish side, if you will. Okay, so that is done. And then this will fit in here. As long as that tape is down. And then I had this little saying, it says, "Love at first sight," I was going to put up here. Or you can put it here. I think I'm going to put it up here. Put a photo here, and then you've got this nice little pocket. You've got this pocket, lots of photos just so far in this signature. Now we're going to get to the outside flaps. This is going to measure at 6 1/8 across by your 8 3/4 in height. But now you're going to score at a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score at 5/8 of an inch. And because this little gusset right here needs to take in all of that we've built here, we need to make sure that the gusset is wrapped around properly. So if you wrap it that way and then you open this up, you're going to see that this piece falls right on that 5/8 line. And then when this folds over, that 1/2 inch trim matches up with the 1/2 inch trim that's already in place. And then you've got a nice framed in edge, okay? So let's go to the other side. This one's going to be a little bit bigger. This is 7 3/8 of an inch across. 7 3/8 across by your 8 3/4 in height. And the same thing, we want this little hinge right here to wrap around the work that's already in place. Whoa, that tore. Come here. Straighten this out just a little bit and then fold this over. All lines up nice and neat. Okay. We need to set some magnets. So I'm going to put one right there. And I need to put some tape on it because these are not adhesive. And then I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper, let that find its mate. Put that on the back. Turning the tape up on the back side of the magnet. And then ensuring that your edges are even down here. Put this in place, make sure your hinges are straight, and then give it a good commitment. And now, I can find my tape, we're going to tape this in place. And I'm hoping I'm okay with my magnet placements, considering what I'm going to do to the front. I really hope I am. Sometimes I'm off. So let's go ahead and let's work on the inside panels first. This piece you're going to be playing with. Once you trim one side, the other side is going to be just enough to fill it. So I trimmed the short side first. And I'm going to glue it in place. Ah! That's okay. The tape's on, or the tape, the glue's on the proper side of this. Now, down here, this being a wood floor, I put in a rocking chair, this little cabinet, and then a basket in front of the cabinet. And then this gives you a photo spot up here. And I do believe I put the word adorable right there. And yes, you're layering over things, but that's a part of what we do when we put things together. We layer. Let me get some of this glue on the critical parts. And I want the rocking chair to come down away. Oh, I just messed up. I just messed up. It was not my intent to put, hold on just a second. It wasn't my intent to put glue up around the top of the chair, because you might want to stick a photo down low enough. So again, getting back to, this is your I've flustered myself. I can't think of what baseboard. This is the baseboard. This is your floor. This is your baseboard. So the rocking chair should never sit on the baseboard. All right, I'm going to make sure that that glue is not going to be an issue. There we go. This can come all the way up to the baseboard if need be. So I'm going to be mindful of how I glue this. I'm just going to glue the bottom and this. And here's why I wanted to be careful with that. So if you've got a photo and you want to come down this low and set a photo in, you'll be able to do so rather than being limited here. So if you've got like how much room do you have here? So you've got enough room to put a 4 by 6 photo, but in order to get that 6 photo in, you're going to want to come in and tuck just behind here, okay? So not gluing these down will allow you to do that. So here's our basket. Now I am going to tap on these little fragile edges and put them in place, and then the word adorable. All right, so let's go over to the other side. I need to get my tape because I have a magnet on this side. A little bit here just so I can use that to stable the piece in. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's take this off. And we're going to take this off. It's a big enough piece that putting something in the center to help keep it in place while you're playing around with placement. I am not clearing the top of this very well. Oh, bummers. I need to take something off the top for this to fit in there. Totally mismeasured that. I gotta try cutting this again. It didn't cut very cleanly. Okay. Now I've got nice spacing here on the ends. Oh, it moved. Okay, this is really starting to try my patience just a little bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to have an outburst. I'm a crafter. We do that every once in a while. All right, so now on this side, we're going to have a little bassinet. We're going to have a changing table. These go someplace else. And then we have a teddy bear in this corner, and then we have the word sweet. So let's go ahead and get these. Now I'm not gluing this up here for the same reasons. So I will bring this right up to the baseboard, this edge right here, right up to the baseboard, so that you can actually tuck behind the top of the bassinet. And then we'll put in this cutie, and I'm just doing, as you can see, I'm just doing the bottom half of this. And it's going to set up next to the baseboard so that the legs are on the floor. Then we'll put in the little teddy bear right here. And then the word sweet. Okay, so you've got some tucks here. You can put photos across, you can put them lengthwise. Now let's go to this. This is where I'm concerned. I'm hoping I didn't mess up with what I intended to do because of magnets. All right. I may have to make some adjustments. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. This is the piece I trimmed. So trimming to this piece first, because it's the bigger of the two, and then the remainder should fit right over here. I have, so this will be for months 5 and 6. So 6 is going to go here. Now where's my magnet? And 5 is going to go here. And that was going to sit over here. So this is not the problem. It's going to be this. So where's my magnet? My magnet's back here. So I'm going to pencil. So you be aware when you put yours together that you're going to need to work around where you place your magnets. So let me mess around with this, and then that way you know you don't have to. So you can see what the final result is. So if this is where my magnet is, and this is my card, then this should close. It's making a connection, but not as strong as I would like for it to make. But I can fix that. So let's get the tape on this. Now, this will be the tape that I'll use to stabilize this when I put this in here. So this is what the intent is this. And then we have this, but if we close this, I don't have a strong magnet connection. So I'm going to play with this and see what I can do. So this is month 5. It's going to sit here. This was going to go here, and then the clock. Okay, cool beans. All right, so this little element here is what I was going to put up here at the top. And I thought about moving it over here, but I think I'm going to leave it up here because here's why. I can actually put a magnet behind the clock, and then I can put the other magnet here on this side, so that then the magnet here will be an additional feature. So let's get that put together. All right. Did I ink this? I did. It just doesn't look like it. Okay, let's put this in together here. You think through problems and you find a solution. I'm putting the clock up here. So I'm going to take a magnet and I'm going to tape a magnet to the back of the clock. Okay. And then the clock, its partner, let me do it this way. Okay. So then the partner is going to sit there and put some tape on it. I'm losing my tools. Oh, here it is. Take the tape off the back of the magnet. We're going to bring this over and we're going to close this. Ta-da! Okay. Now we're going to tape this one. Now we've got some little extra oomph. So we're going to close this back up again, and then we're going to find where the clock needs to be. And now we're going to add some tape to the back of the clock so it will stay in place. And I'm going to do a crisscross, so I'm covering as much of that magnet as I can. There we go. So now, when this goes in, and this goes in, hear that click? Ta-da! Problem solved. All right, let's go ahead and let's get this put together. This measures 6 1/4 inches by 4 1/8, and you're going to score it at 3 1/8. I'm using 2 small magnets to help keep this closed, and we'll tape this in place. There's that magnet right there, like this. And I'm just going to add some strips of tape. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this set down. I gotta hurry up because I think this video is running a little long. I try not to go over an hour. Okay, now we're in. I want this to open this way, so we're going to set these in with the opening to the left. There's that magnet. Drop this down just so that it's not interfering as much as possible. Now I'm going to erase my pencil mark, burnish, and this was birth month number 6. It's going to sit in just like this. And then from your scraps, you'll simply cut 2 pieces that you want to use. And again, I'm going to stay with the darker side. Okay, let me double check measurements. I should have done that before I inked. Nope, we're looking good. Now this is replaceable if I end up with a magnet challenge, because I taped this element down. I can just lift the whole thing and make a new one, stripping the magnets out, of course. Let me double check. Looks good. Birth 6, and then this is going to be birth month 5. So same thing, same measurements. Oh, I forgot to put my magnets. So there's one. Oh, come out of there. Here's 2. And then this one's going to open up this way. And I'm just going to put in 3 strips. Rather than framing it, it'll have the same amount of contact. Okay, and this is birth month 5. Where'd my other magnet go? Did I put that on the wrong side? Well, I don't know what I did with my other magnet. Well, that's interesting. Birth month number 5. And I wanted to tuck this in here. I didn't set it over far enough. Well, Charlie, we can put you down there. And then I had the fly and then miracle. I just wanted to use this, but I'm not going to be able to. Okay, so what I did forget to do was cut for these pieces in here. So I'm going to do that real quick. No, I've just got to trim down a little bit more. And then we'll trim this one. Sorry about this. I thought I had them all done, but I didn't. And then you can put in a couple photos here for the birth month. And we're gonna cat and the fiddle. We're just gonna daub a little bit of glue on the critical pieces, and we're gonna just set him right here. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put this up there. And we have the little bug. Okay. We're done. Let's get this turned over and let's get some tape on the reverse side and get this placed in the album before I run into hour number 2. Use the widest tape that you have that you can still maintain control with. The more tape you have, the better chance you have of this staying down in your album. I hear a lot of people say, well, my tape did this. Well, you got to burnish really well, get the air out of it. And you need to use sufficient amount of tape. Then you've got a mass amount of tape working with you instead of a thin strip of tape working against you. All right, let's get it in the album. It's going to sit here months 5 and 6. All right, I'm going to turn this way, flip this, and I'm going to take these off. Bring it right to the end and then make sure it's even top to bottom and not cantered. There we go. Let's take this tape off. Well, actually, I'm not taking the tape off. I'm taking the backing of the tape off. I always say it wrong. Now, to prevent this end from flattening out, when you go to commit this, you're going to do a gentle push back on this hinge so that it's sitting up straight, and then you can commit. All right? So let's get in here. Now, this is going to be really hard to do because of the little elements, so I'm just going to press as I come over them, but I will burnish firm where I can. They're hanging up on each other. There we go. Let me go over this just one more time, just so that I know it's down there. Okay, we're done. That lays better that way. We're done, yay! Okay, I'll see you on the next build. Bye-bye.